I received an email from a stranger saying that my wife is cheating on me, so I demanded to see her phone. Am I out of order here? I never imagined I'd be writing something like this. I'm a 36-year-old guy, and my wife, 34F, and I have been married for 8 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter together, and up until yesterday I thought we had a solid, trusting relationship. I'm still in shock, and I can't believe I'm turning to the internet for advice, but I feel like I have no one else to talk to. Last night around midnight, I was going through emails on my laptop, half asleep on the couch. That's when I saw an email that jolted me awake. The subject line read, "Your wife is cheating on you." My heart practically jumped out of my chest. At first, I thought it was spam or a cruel joke, but it had my name in the greeting and mentioned my wife Alice by name. The email was short and devastatingly clear. It claimed my wife has been seeing someone else. It said things like, "She's not who you think she is," and ask her about Thursday nights. It mentioned a name, some guy called Tom, and said my wife and Tom have been meeting at a hotel. I felt a cold sweat break out as I read it over and over. I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, stomach churning. Was this real? Who would send something like this? The email was from a throwaway Gmail address. It could be a malicious prank, but what if it wasn't? The details, her name, the specific Thursday nights, a guy named Tom, felt pointed. We do have a routine where every Thursday my wife goes to a yoga class in the evening. She's done that for over a year. I've never thought anything of it. She comes home around 9 p.m. all sweaty and relaxed, usually after grabbing a smoothie with friends post-class. At least, that's what she's always told me. I sat there for what felt like forever before I decided I needed to know if this was bullshit or not. I went upstairs to our bedroom, where Alice was asleep. Or pretending to be, I don't know. I shook her awake, probably more roughly than I should have. I was panicking. I said something like, "I just got an email. Someone says you're cheating on me." My voice was shaking, and I was nearly yelling without meaning to. Alice woke up, startled and confused, all groggy. "What? What email? What are you talking about?" I was in full freak-out mode. I grabbed her phone from the nightstand. I know, not cool. But I was desperate. She snatched it right back immediately, which made my heart sink further. I told her, probably too loud, "If you've got nothing to hide, let me see your phone. Right now." She looked at me like I was insane. "No, this is crazy. It's midnight. What has gotten into you?" I shoved my laptop screen toward her with the email open. "Someone sent me this. It says you're cheating with some guy named Tom. Do you know a Tom? Why Thursdays? Why would someone send this?" I was unraveling. She read the email and her face went pale. Then she got angry, furious that someone would send it. She said, "This is ridiculous. I don't know who would do this, but it's not true. There's no Tom. Whoever wrote this is messing with us." She held her phone tightly and said, "You're really going to trust some random email over me? Over your wife?" I told her I didn't know what to think, that I needed to see her phone to put my mind at ease. I wasn't calm or reasonable. I was shaking and probably looked at her like she was a criminal. She got out of bed and started pulling on jeans and a hoodie, which confused me. She said, "If you don't trust me, I'm not staying here. Not while you're acting crazy." That escalated things. I blocked the bedroom door and said, "No, you don't get to walk away. What's on your phone that you can't show me? Why leave if you've done nothing?" She screamed at me to move. She shouted so loud I'm sure our daughter in the next room heard. That's when I realized how out of control this was getting. I didn't want to scare our little girl. I stepped aside and Alice stormed out with her phone. I followed, pleading, "Please, just show me and I'll drop this. I have to know." She wasn't listening. She ran downstairs and grabbed her car keys. I got in front of the door and said, "It's the middle of the night. You can't just leave. Our daughter is asleep upstairs." She looked at me with so much anger and maybe. She said, "I'm going to my sister's. Get out of my way." Her sister lives 20 minutes away. If Alice was going anywhere, I'm glad it was there. But still, she'd rather run to her sister's at midnight than hand me her phone for 10 seconds? That felt like a punch to the gut. I said, "Do you understand how bad this looks? You'd rather run out than let me see one thing on your phone? What am I supposed to think, Alice?" She just shook her head, eyes flashing. "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't even look at you right now." She pushed past me. I didn't stop her. She left, backing out of the driveway. I stood there barefoot in the cold, in shock. One email and our whole world turned upside down in minutes. After she left, I checked on our daughter. She was still asleep, thank God. I felt like the worst father, the worst husband. What kind of parents scream at each other and run out of the house at midnight? I never wanted our home to be like that. I tried calling Alice after she'd been gone maybe 20 minutes. No answer. Straight to voicemail. Maybe she turned off her phone or blocked me. I texted apologizing for shouting, explaining I freaked out because of the email, and asked her to please call me. No response. I didn't sleep at all. I lay in bed, phone on my chest, staring at the ceiling. Around 6 a.m., our daughter woke up. I did our morning routine in a daze. Breakfast, getting her ready for preschool, all on autopilot. I told my boss I had a family emergency and wouldn't be in. At about 8 a.m., Alice finally texted back. My heart leapt seeing her name, but the text said, "I need space. I'll come by later to talk when we've both calmed down. Please take our daughter to your mom's for tonight. I don't want her around for this conversation." My stomach dropped. For this conversation, ominous. Was she going to ask for a separation? Or was she going to confess something and telling me to take our daughter to my mom's so she wouldn't be around? God, what were we about to get into? I replied, asking if she was okay, and said I'd take our daughter to my mom's. I apologized for how I handled things, but insisted we needed to talk about the email. She didn't answer. I spent the day in a fog of anxiety. In the afternoon, I dropped our daughter off at my mom's. I lied that Alice and I needed to have a serious private talk and that I'd pick her up the next morning. My mom looked worried but didn't press me. When I got home, I felt sick. I paced around waiting. Alice showed up around 5 p.m. She looked like she hadn't slept either, eyes red and puffy, like she'd been crying. That gave me a weird mix of guilt and suspicion. Guilt for hurting her if she was innocent. Suspicion that maybe she was crying because she was caught. We sat down in the living room, on opposite ends of the couch. The silence was brutal. Finally, I said softly, "I'm sorry about last night, but you have to understand why I freaked out. Can we please talk about this?" She didn't look at me but nodded. "I'm sorry I ran out, but you really scared me. I've never seen you like that, and I didn't know what you were going to do." That stung. I've never given her any reason to think I'd hurt her. "Yes," I yelled, "but I wasn't violent. I told her I would never hurt you. I was just desperate for answers. That email messed me up. I feel like I don't know what's true." My voice shook. I was on the verge of tears. The fear of what might have happened, the regret of how I acted. It all hit me at once. She finally looked at me, eyes full of tears. "I am not cheating on you, I promise. I don't know who sent that email or why. Maybe someone hates me, or hates us, or it's just a cruel joke. But I'm not cheating." I wanted to believe her so badly. I felt a rush of relief hearing her say that so directly. But something was still off. I asked, "Then why wouldn't you just let me see your phone and clear this up? You basically chose your phone over our marriage last night. You'd rather leave than hand it to me. That's what I can't understand." She bit her lip, looking away. "It's not what you think," she said quietly. My heart pounded again. "What does that mean? If you're not cheating, what's so bad you can't show me? Do you realize how this looks? Please," she said. "Just stay calm. I'll show you my phone, okay? I will. But let me explain first, and you have to listen and not freak out." Now I was really nervous. "Okay, I'm listening." She took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and told me something I never expected. "I haven't been cheating," she said, "but I haven't been going to yoga for a while either." I stared, confused. She continued, "About 3 months ago, I hurt my shoulder at yoga. I told you about it, remember?" I did recall her mentioning a strain. I stopped going to class to heal, but I still left the house at the same time every Thursday. I started going somewhere else instead. My mind raced. She looked so guilty and ashamed. She whispered, "I started going to a bar instead, just to sit, have a drink, and think. Alone." It was like a punch to the gut. A bar. For 3 months she's been going to a bar alone every Thursday night instead of yoga. Why lie about that? I asked why. Why would you do that? Why lie and say you were at yoga? Alice was crying again. "Because I needed a break," she said. "From everything. Being a mom, being a wife, work, everything. And I knew if I told you I just wanted to sit in a bar by myself once a week, you'd think I was crazy or you'd be hurt, thinking it was about you, which it wasn't." It's stupid, I know. I just needed some time to myself. I was taken aback. On one hand, I understood needing personal time. We've both been stressed with work and raising a toddler. But sneaking off to a bar and lying for months, that was a huge breach of trust, even if she wasn't cheating. She continued, I go to this pub, 2 towns over, where I won't run into anyone we know. I nurse one drink for an hour or two, chat a little with the bartender or whoever, and then come home. I know it was wrong to lie. It was my little escape. I'm sorry. I sat quietly. Part of me was relieved her secret wasn't an affair, but I was also hurt. She felt she had to escape from me and our daughter. Our life was so suffocating she had to pretend to be at yoga to sit alone. That hurt. And I still thought about the email mentioning a man named Tom in a hotel. Where did that come from? I asked. The email mentioned someone named Tom and meeting at a hotel. What's that about? Are you sure there's nothing else? She looked baffled. I have no idea. I don't know any Tom except one at work, but I've never met him outside of a meeting. I've never gone to any hotel with anyone. I don't know why it said that. I believe she hadn't had an affair, but the email had detail. Maybe someone saw her at the bar and assumed she was meeting someone. Alice's face changed, like something dawned on her. Oh my God, she said quietly. That night, she trailed off. What? I asked. What is it? She said, a few weeks ago at the bar, a man sat next to me and chatted a bit. It was busy, he offered to buy me a drink. I turned him down, told him I was married, and even showed my ring. He was friendly at first, but then got a little weird. He asked why I was alone. I was vague, said I just needed quiet. When I left, he tried to give me his number. I said no and left. I think his name was Tom. I remember because I made a mental note that it was weird since I didn't want to give him the wrong idea. My blood ran cold. Was this stranger the Tom from the email? Could he have followed her or somehow found out who I am? How would he get my email? She didn't give any info. This was a lot to take in, but it weirdly made sense. Random guy sees her alone, tries to hit on her, she rejects him. Maybe he got bitter or nosy. But how would he even know her name, let alone my name and email? Perhaps he saw her car, got her name from a license plate or something, or maybe overheard something. It was creepy and infuriating to think some stranger inserted himself into our life like this. But we didn't have proof. I decided to focus on us. I asked to see her phone, to put my mind to rest fully. She agreed and unlocked it. I went through it. I saw texts with her sister and her friend about her secret bar nights. They confirmed her story. Her friend texted, "Did you enjoy yoga?" winking face. And Alice replied, "Haha, it was very zen," clearly joking. Her sister texted things like, "Be safe," and "Maybe tell him eventually." There was nothing about any affair or some secret lover. I put down her phone and exhaled. She asked, "Do you hate me now?" I shook my head. "No, I just wish you had told me you needed a break. I feel hurt you hid it. But I'm also sorry for how I reacted. I thought you were having an affair. I lost it." We both got teary and hugged. It was a weird mix of relief and hurt. She hadn't cheated, and she was relieved I knew her secret. But we both felt a bit betrayed. Me by her lie, her by my explosive reaction and lack of trust. We apologized over and over. We talked about how to move forward. She promised no more lies, no more secret getaways. If she needs space, she'll talk to me. I promised to work on my trust issues and not jump to conclusions or lose my temper. There's still the mystery of the email. It's unsettling. We might never know who or why. Our best guess is that guy from the bar, or some person with a grudge who somehow observed her Thursday routine and decided to stir shit. It's scary to think about. For now, we're focusing on us. We agreed to try couples therapy to rebuild trust and improve communication. It's crazy that an anonymous email could have blown up our marriage. In a way, it revealed a problem we needed to address, her feeling overwhelmed and needing space. I'm oddly grateful for that, but furious someone out there tried to destroy us for sport or revenge. I'm writing this after she's gone to bed. I'm exhausted but too wired to sleep. I keep replaying that moment I read the email, and how easily I assumed the worst. I'm angry at whoever sent it for the chaos it caused, but I'm trying to focus on the relief that we're okay, or at least on the path to okay. Am I out of order for how I reacted? Should I have waited and asked calmly in the morning? Probably. But try to imagine. You get a detailed message saying your partner is cheating. Most people would freak out, right? I do feel guilty for scaring my wife, but I also feel like her lie put us in a vulnerable spot for this kind of doubt. We both messed up. I haven't told anyone in real life about this. I'm too embarrassed. If you've read this far, thank you. I could really use some outside perspective. How do we rebuild trust after both of us screwed up? Has anyone dealt with an anonymous accusation that was false, but still left damage? And how do I get past the anger of not knowing who tried to hurt us like this? I'm feeling lost, and any advice would be appreciated. Update. Original post on relationship advice. Hi everyone. I didn't expect my post to get so much attention. Thank you for all the advice and support. It's been 1 week since that nightmare night. Here's what's happened since. Our relationship, my wife Alice and I, are doing better in some ways. We've had long, tearful talks and even started couples therapy. She's been completely transparent and apologetic for lying, and I've been working on staying calm and listening. We're not 100% okay, but we're trying. Trust is slowly being rebuilt. The anonymous email. We couldn't shake the question of who sent that email. Not knowing was keeping us both on edge. We considered all the suggestions people gave. I gently asked her sister and close friend, who knew about her secret bar visits, if they had any idea, or if they tried to force her to tell me by sending it. They both were appalled at the idea and swore they'd never do something like that. I believe them. The most likely suspect was the guy from the bar, Tom. The email specifically said Thursday nights, which made me think whoever sent it knew about her routine. Alice was nervous about digging into this, but I felt we needed answers to feel safe. Investigating Tom, this past Thursday I decided to visit the pub where Alice had been spending her Thursday evenings. She agreed I should go, though she didn't want to come with me, understandably. I went around the same time she used to go. I mostly sat and observed. After a while, I struck up a chat with the bartender. I mentioned that a woman, I described to Alice without saying she's my wife, had some trouble with a guy there recently. He remembered exactly who I meant. He said the guy had been hitting on that lady a few weeks back, and she clearly wasn't interested. The bartender even remembered the guy's name Tom because he had to jokingly yell at him like, "Hey Tom, leave the poor woman alone," at one point. Then the bartender told me something chilling. During their small talk, Tom mentioned he worked in accounting at Alice's company. He actually named the company. My stomach dropped. That's where Alice works. The bartender said Tom hadn't been in the bar the last couple of weeks, and figured maybe he'd given up because the lady, my wife, stopped showing up. I left the pub with my heart pounding. When I told Alice what I learned, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. She does have a coworker named Tom in accounting. He's fairly new, and she only interacted with him briefly in a few meetings. She never made the connection that the Tom from the bar could be the same guy from work. She didn't recognize him in that context. We're now almost certain it's the same person, which means the anonymous email likely came from her coworker. Alice was absolutely freaked out by this. It means Tom knew who she was the whole time, and he somehow found out my email, or at least my name. He tried to sabotage our marriage, possibly because she rejected him. Little details clicked into place. He knew her schedule, knew our names. It's scary. What now? We're figuring out how to handle this. We don't have solid proof. It's hard to prove who sent an anonymous email, but the circumstantial evidence is strong. Alice is terrified to go back to work and potentially see him. She's considering reporting him to HR for harassment. She saved the anonymous email and documented everything in case we involve the company or even the police. I'm beyond angry. Part of me wants to find this guy and beat the ever-living crap out of him for doing this to us. But I'm holding back. We have to be smart. Some of you said to involve the police. At the time, we had no clue who did it, so I didn't. But now we have a strong suspicion. The tricky part is proving it. The email came from a random Gmail. We have no concrete proof Tom from the bar and work is the sender, just the story and timing. If we go to HR at her job, it might turn into a he said, she said, unless he admits something, or there are other complaints against him. Alice is nervous about making a scene at work unless we're sure, because if nothing comes of it, she still has to see this guy around, assuming he doesn't quit or something. Our tentative plan is for Alice to talk to HR confidentially and at least put it on their radar. We might also consult a lawyer or the police about the anonymous harassment. We haven't confronted Tom directly, and honestly, I'm not sure I could trust myself not to get violent if I did. This whole thing is surreal. A week ago, I thought my life was imploding from an affair that wasn't actually happening. Now I find out my wife was effectively being stalked by a co-worker creep who nearly succeeded in wrecking our marriage out of, what, spite? Obsession? I'm furious, but also relieved to have a likely answer to the mystery. Alice is not doing well with this revelation. She's anxious about going back to work knowing this guy might be there. I told her she could consider taking some time off or working from home until we sort this out. She's considering it. For everyone who told me not to immediately assume the worst of my wife, thank you. I'm glad I listened and took a step back. We're closer now than we were before, even with this craziness hanging over us. And for those who said I should dig deeper into who sent the email, also thank you, because otherwise this might have been swept under the rug, and who knows what this guy might have done next. I'll likely update again once we figure out our next move, or if anything major happens. Right now I'm just trying to support my wife and keep my own anger in check. Part of me is itching for a confrontation. Part of me knows we have to be smart. If anyone has dealt with a stalker or harasser like this, any advice on how to handle it discreetly but effectively would be very welcome. We're kind of winging it here, and it's terrifying. Update 2. Final update. I wish I had better news. This will likely be my last update. A lot has happened in the 2 weeks since my last post, and it's been a new kind of nightmare. After the previous update, Alice reported Tom to her HR. She explained everything, and they took it seriously but cautioned that without concrete proof it might be hard to act. They did speak with Tom and said they'd keep an eye on him. We also filed a police report about the email and stalking, though the police said there wasn't much they could do yet. Unfortunately, that seemed to provoke Tom. A few days later, he approached Alice in the parking lot after work. I was on my way to pick her up when she called me, terrified, saying, "He's here." I told her to stay on the phone and that I'd be there in minutes, and I dialed 999, our emergency number, on another phone. When I arrived, I saw Tom talking aggressively at her by her car. I ran over and told him to back off. He started yelling that we were ruining his life and that I didn't deserve her. He blurted out that he sent the email, trying to justify it by claiming he thought I deserved to know my wife was unhappy, as if he was doing me a favor. It was clear he was unhinged. Before I could respond, Tom snapped and lunged at me. He punched me in the face and shoved me against the car. I hit back to defend myself. We struggled until 2 bystanders and, moments later, the police pulled him away. It was a blur of shouting and a few blows, over within a minute, though it felt like an eternity. The police arrested Tom on the spot. Alice was shaken to the core but thankfully unharmed. I had a split lip and some bruises, nothing major. Aftermath: Tom was immediately fired from Alice's company. We're pressing charges for the assault, and we've obtained a restraining order against him. Through a coworker friend, we learned Tom had a history of harassing women. He'd been let go from a prior job for similar reasons. It's chilling, but at least now there's a legal record of his behavior. One would think with him gone, we could finally breathe and work on repairing things. And we are safer now, yes, but emotionally. This whole saga has taken a toll on us. Alice has been having panic attacks since the confrontation. She's seeing a therapist to cope with the trauma. I'm in therapy too, trying to deal with my anger and guilt. Yes, guilt. I keep wondering if my reaction to that initial anonymous email set this chain of events into overdrive. Maybe if I had approached Alice calmly, she wouldn't have run off that night, and maybe this wouldn't have escalated the way it did. Alice feels guilt too, for lying in the first place, and for ever going to that bar where this man fixated on her. We both know, logically, that the only person truly at fault is Tom, but emotions aren't always logical. After many hard conversations, Alice and I decided to take a break from our marriage. This ordeal revealed deep cracks in our relationship that we need to address individually. Between her secret keeping and my explosive reaction, we both got hurt. Now layered on top of that is trauma from what Tom did.